We are now less than a month away from the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, as well as the Yuffie DLC episode that releases with the game, episode Intermission. We've had 2 trailers, one of them being the final trailer, but we aren't exactly done when it comes to talking about the game. In a recent blog post on the Square Enix website by Duncan Heaney, the content communications manager over at Square Enix, they detail many new things for the game, including renders for some new characters, battle mechanics, limit breaks, and the new minigame found in Intermission for Condor. So, for today, I'd like to go over the blog post on what it detailed, as well as give my thoughts on what was revealed and shown. So, that said, let's do this. They start off this blog post with this beautiful key art that we talked about in the previous video, but now in its full glory. I said there, I'll say it again, this artwork is gorgeous. Then we get into the text, starting with quote, "Not long to go now. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade arrives for PlayStation 5 on June 10th, 2021. Along with enhanced visuals and performance, the game also includes FF7R episode Intermission, a brand new story featuring the fan favorite Yuffie Kisaragi. She's on a daring mission to steal some powerful materia from the sinister Shinra Electric Power Company." Ahead of the episode's release, we thought we'd give you another sneak peek as to what to expect from Yuffie's upcoming excursion into Midgar, including some of the new characters, a new summon, and a preview of the new Fort Condor minigame. Below that, they have a link to the final trailer, which I've already done a discussion and analysis on, which you can go watch by clicking the card up top. We have a section for characters, with the caption saying, quote, "Last month we introduced you to the Avalanche allies who will be assisting Yuffie in her mission to Midgar. Today, we showcase a couple of characters who are decidedly less friendly. We start off with a returning villain that was revealed in the last trailer, Nero from Dirge of Cerberus. We have his render here, which, I'll even admit, he does look pretty cool. I've already mentioned my less than stellar feelings on Dirge of Cerberus content being in Intermission, but I have always liked Nero's design personally, and I think he looks pretty cool here. Now let's just hope the writing is actually decent. We have a section talking about his character in which it says, quote, "Nero is a member of the VII, an elite unit within Shinra's secret military group, Deep Ground. The younger brother of Weiss the Immaculate, he practically worships his incarcerated sibling. The experiments that brought Nero into the world also left him with the power to control darkness. Some call him Nero the Sable, and he lives up to the name by engulfing whoever and whatever he pleases in a vast abyss." Like I said before, I'm less than happy that Dirge content is being included in Intergrade and Intermission, but I will stay optimistic until the release. Remake's writing and characterization is pretty on point, and I have little problems with it, so maybe they'll be done well. I can at least say I'm happy with the visuals surrounding Nero, though. Next up, we got a render and description for Scarlet and her red robot that was in the final trailer, this now being titled Scarlet and the Crimson Mare. This sounds like a Marvel title. Gotta say, I'm a pretty big fan of the design for the robot. It looks pretty damn nice. We have a description to go along with this, saying, quote, "Scarlet is Shinra's director of advanced weaponry, and is in charge of the very materia that Wutai wants to steal. When Yuffie and Sona infiltrate her division, she graciously lets them become test subjects for a suit of battle armor called the Crimson Mare." I mean, that's just being a good host, right? Scarlet developed the awesome armor personally and takes the pilot seat against the heroes. They'll have their work cut out for them. The Crimson Mare comes equipped with interchangeable weapons such as sabers and Mako cannons. True to its name, it's more than capable of painting the arena red with the blood of its foes. Awesome armor is right. I think this seriously looks awesome from a design perspective. The render really makes this thing look badass, the reflective material all over, and the idea of the interchangeable weapons is plain and simply awesome. Plus, I'm happy we're going to be getting some more Scarlet. She always has been a really cool character for me personally if we're talking about her design and personality, so I'm happy to see more of her and in an actual battle this time. We're done with story content now. Now we're talking about battle mechanics. They say, quote, "Next up, we'll explain a little bit how the battle mechanics work in FF7R episode Intermission. For Yuffie and Sonnen, it's teamwork that makes the dream work. Of course, they also have their limits. We start off with synergized attacks. The image we see here is of Yuffie and Sonnen fighting a sweeper enemy. They say, quote, "Although Sonnen can't be controlled in battle, he can be given orders. What's more, with coordination, he can work with Yuffie to deliver more powerful attacks. If both characters have ATB available, pressing L2 will engage synergy with Yuffie and Sonnen, allowing them to team up for special attacks that can stagger enemies more easily." With this image, we see Sonnen and Yuffie fighting what seems to be a new enemy to Remake. I'm sure this is an enemy from the original FF7 brought to Intermission, but I honestly can't tell which one this is if that's the case. If you have a theory, let me know down below. Either way, this enemy's design is really cool looking. The rough detail in the skin to the awesome looking head, it all looks really damn cool to me. I think Yuffie thinks the same too, because I think she's about to bonk it on the head. For these next 4 images, we see some of the attacks that Sonnen and Yuffie can perform. And even though we've gone over these in the past, I'll still talk about them here with the images. First off is Synergized Art of War, which batters an enemy with a ton of blows and all subsequent attacks deal increased damage. This enemy they're doing this attack on is also a new enemy from what I can tell, though again, I can't really tell which enemy this is unless it's new to Intermission. Either way, I think it looks pretty cool. Kinda reminds me of a Gen 1 Transformer if I'm being honest. The second attack is called Synergized Windstorm, which creates a gust of wind that hurts nearby enemies and launches them towards you. It seems like they're doing this attack to a pair of shock troopers. Out of the two, I think I'll end up going with Art of War over Windstorm. I think Art of War is just gonna end up being more useful if we're talking about raw damage output. Either way, both look pretty damn cool. For our third section here today, we have limit breaks. They say, quote, "Just as in the original Final Fantasy VII Remake adventure, characters' limit gauges will fill as they take damage. Once Yuffie and Sonnen have taken enough damage, they'll be able to unleash a devastatingly damaging attack. I had mentioned previously that I was assuming Yuffie's limit break was either Doom of the Living or Bloodfest, going off of how similar it looked, but this is apparently called Bloodbath. As I mentioned in that video, I think this Limit Break, purely from a visual perspective, is one of my favorites. I love the look of the orange leaves just flying off the enemies you hit it, but the actual move itself just looks devastating and I love it. Sonnen also has a Limit Break, this one being Dance of the Dragon. We saw this briefly in the previous trailer, though not very clearly, but I think this one is easily one of my favorites as well. I love the look of the dragon as it flies out of the ground. Again, the animations in Remake are drop dead gorgeous across the board. For our second to last section here, we have Fort Condor. This minigame in the original is pretty famous, or infamous depending on how you feel about it, and for the remake, more specifically Intermission, it's returning. It says, quote, "If Yuffie needs a break from clandestine ninja work, she can check out the hot new craze in the Midgar Intercity, Fort Condor. Inspired by one of Shinra's military campaigns, it's a game of strategy in which two players deploy their units to conquer their opponent's base and defend their own. Here's how it works. First, you select the board, which determines the number of ATB charges and materia available to you. You can also set the units you wish to deploy. In this image, we can see Yuffie's name on the top, as well as this board being labeled as the starting board. There are 8 ATB charges with a fire and cure materia being available. Yuffie is available as Security Officer, a Guard Dog, a Grenadier, Slug Ray, Riot Trooper, and a Blast Rat. Earlier, they had mentioned that the game uses 2 players, and to the right, we see who that second player is, being Kyrie. She has a much different set of units compared to Yuffie, as well as higher health for both her headquarters and her outposts, on top of having different materia. Let's continue with the description. It says, quote, "Use ATB charges to deploy a unit. Once deployed, it will march towards your opponent's base and automatically engage any enemy units it encounters. A unit is assigned to one of 3 roles: Vanguard, Ranged, or Defense. These determine which enemies it will be effective against. Materia can be used to cast powerful spells. Timing matters as each orb can only be used once per match, so it's up to you to decide when is best to use it. In the first image, we have a few things I'd like to go over. First off, you can press L2 to list your unit's details, and press R2 to list your enemy's unit details. We also see on the top that you press L1 to look through your spells, which of course differ depending on the materia you use. Also, we have a timer on the top, with the first shot being at 1 minute and 42 seconds left, with the second screenshot showing it has 58 seconds left. Now you may be curious, is there any benefit or reward you get for fully completing Fort Condor? After all, in the original FF7, you would get the Phoenix Summoning materia for fully completing it. Well, the blog hints at it. It says, quote, "Fort Condor is gaining massive popularity, and word of the street, or under it, is that anyone who can defeat the Grand Master can win some rare materia." Now, does that sound like something a certain Wu-Tai ninja would be able to resist? So yeah, if you can defeat the Grand Master, or presumably the final boss of the minigame, you win some materia. Even though Ramuh has been shown and is a new summon to Intermission, I doubt it's him. It wouldn't really surprise me if it's Phoenix like the original FF7. Now, this is coming from someone who really was never able to get into the original Fort Condor minigame. I think this looks like a lot of fun. I love the visuals surrounding it for one thing, but I genuinely think this looks really cool. A Fort Condor minigame was the last thing I was expecting here, but I'm not complaining. And you know I'm getting that rare materia. Finally, to end off the blog post, we get a good bit about Ramuh. Of course, as mentioned earlier, Ramuh is returning in Intermission as a new summon. Let's go over what they said about him. Quote, "Quite a few people expressed regret that the lightning launching Ramuh didn't make an appearance at FF7R, including co-director Naoki Hamaguchi himself, which is something that I don't think was known up until now, but I could be wrong. The fabled Lord of Levin is able to bend lightning to his will to strike down enemies. It's said that he once cast judgment on the wicked with mighty bolts and exhorted humanity to accept law and order. In this image here, we see Ramuh using one of his abilities against Nero, as we can see down there. This ability that he's using against Nero is apparently known as Voltaic Lance, which brings a lance of lightning down that deals damage to nearby enemies for a short time. His ultimate attack, the moves that the summons use just before they leave the battle, even though we don't see much of it, is titled Judgment Bolt. It causes a spectacular lightning storm that lays waste to all enemies in the battlefield. I'm not the first to say it, and I definitely won't be the last, but Ramuh looks amazing in the remake. Not just the model and his beard that gives Santa Claus a run for his money, but the colors, the effects, and the overall detail surrounding him. I'd argue this is the best Ramuh has ever looked, in my opinion. And with that said, we're now done. As a whole, my excitement for Intermission just keeps on growing. With every new piece of detail that's being shown, most of them at least, I've been more and more impressed by it. And from what I'm seeing when it comes to the effects and visuals, it really does seem to use the PS5's hardware pretty damn well. I just wonder how Part 2 is going to look whenever that releases. Whether it's Ramuh, the new Limit Breaks, or Fort Condor, Intermission is looking more and more impressive, and I can't wait to play it on June 10th. So, with that said, what do you all think? Out of everything that's been revealed so far, what are you most excited to check out on Intermission? Let me know down below. Thank you all very much for watching, have a great night, stay safe, and signing off. Peace out.